Well, hello everybody, and welcome to the Tons of Productions podcast on this Monday, June 24th, 2019. Today I have a conversation with a very well-known person in the Vancouver film industry, Jason Cox. He is the general manager for a company named White's Location Equipment Supply Incorporated, and that was formerly Parallel Rentals. This company rents out location equipment to all kinds of big feature films, television series, commercials, that sort of thing. And they also are a great help to the independent film world. If you want to see more about what they rent, go to whitesles.com. Now, the conversation I had with Jason today was great. He is very kind and generous, and I really enjoyed it. So here you go. Here is Jason Cox. You are listening to the Tons of Productions podcast. And we are speeding. How you doing, Jason?
Not too bad. How are you doing?
I'm fantastic. It's good to see you.
Yeah.
It's been a while. Thank you for coming and doing this. I
course.
really appreciate it. It means a lot to me because I know that you know so many people in the film industry, and having worked for you before, it's really. I know that a lot of people will want to listen to what you have to say about quite a few things.
Worked with me, Mike.
It worked with me. Oh,
Not
yeah.
for me. We're all one big happy family here.
That's true. That's true. And I also started well before Whites took over. This was Parallel was called before.
Yep.
So usually when I start these interviews, I find out your beginnings and where you come from and what got you to where you are now. Mm-hmm. So my first question is always, where were you born?
I was born in Edmonton, Alberta, and I think it was about 3 years of age. I said, you know what? I got to get out of this town. No, my
like, I'm out.
A little backpack and everything. No, my parents moved out to Ladner, of all places, after Edmonton, and grew up in Ladner till my teen years. In teen years, I basically moved into Vancouver and started doing my own thing.
Okay. So what was Ladner like? It was really nice to live out there because it's beautiful.
It's nice. It's changed over the years. We used to joke about, call it the town at the end of the ditch. It was the kind of the ongoing joke. But it was a small town. Everybody kind of knew what everybody was doing, one of those kind of places. And yeah, I mean, it was okay. When you're a teenager in a small town like that and everybody's in your business, you kind of like can't wait to bust out and get out of it. So
is there one school? Is that the idea?
Is it the one
and a Catholic?
One high school? No Catholic. The public school. I went to Christian elementary school myself, and we see how that turned out.
Well, you were very pious, yeah.
But went to the high school. I basically into kind of grade 10ish. I'll be honest with you, kind of things went a little bit downhill for me, and I just decided to kind of get into the workforce, make money, and move out on my own. And then soon thereafter, moved out to Vancouver and had a whole host of different jobs.
Nice.
Yeah.
So you were you moved out when you were young then?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Same as me, grade 10.
Yep.
You were 16, 17?
Same, about that, yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. Done and make my mark in the world, and yeah.
Nice. And then you did like labor jobs? You went to like warehouses and stuff, or what was your...
There was a whole host of things that I did back in the day. My mom had always pushed me into, oh, Jason, you're such a good looking young man. You should get into acting. And I did have I applied to a few agencies, and I think I got the stage fright thing.
Oh.
So I had probably about 10 auditions, 5 of which I bailed on. Just basically because I think once you get in there and you see the other 5, 6, 7 people in the room, for me it was a little bit intimidating at the time. I've definitely changed over the years, but back then it wasn't really my thing in front of camera.
Right. And then but you were intrigued by behind the camera, like the crew kind of stuff, and you're a creative type, obviously, because you're a writer.
Yep.
So was that young? Like, did you know you were a writer when you were at a young age?
I did. It's funny because I can actually pinpoint it. When I was in grade 4, our teacher had given us that we used to have to do an exercise. The teacher would rip a picture out of a magazine. put it on your desk, and you had to write a story about it. So I still remember the first one. It was she had ripped a magazine, a page out of the magazine, and it was a guy skiing, and I had to write this whole one page on what I thought this guy was going through and his little story, and it opened up my imagination, and I think that's where I got a little bit of the bug.
So that was where you first realized that you were...
Absolutely.
You were like, oh, there's more in my head and my imagination towards this.
Exactly. I've always been more cerebral, I think, think things through, and just, I don't know, and it really taught me the lesson that I have a story to tell, or many stories to tell. So writing has always been kind of my little hidden passion.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. And then, so how did you get into film? Like when you obviously did film before you actually worked in film, or vice versa?
So what I did is, again, being a bit transient on the job front, it was basically 94. I went to Vancouver Film School before Vancouver School. I went to Vancouver Film School before Vancouver Film School was a big deal.
Oh,
and I took a
okay.
couple of part-time courses. I took script writing, producing for low budgets, and they were all part-time courses. And I got a little bit out of those courses, not too much. I think I was more interested in partying and having a good time in life, to be
Well,
honest
you were
with
young,
you.
of course,
Exactly,
yeah.
right. I had a bit of the drive and the interest of the entertainment industry and the movie making process. And when I went to those courses, it lit a little fire under me, but I think I was more interested in partying and having a good time. So that was 94-ish, and then I basically thought to myself in 2001, I said, I can't do these warehouse jobs anymore, construction, sales, I'm done. I had done about, 15, 20 different jobs up to that point. So I said, you know what, I'm going to take life seriously. I don't want to be one of those guys at 80 that says I should have.
Right.
And
Good for you.
yeah,
You realize that.
exactly. I was a little bit older. I went as a returning adult to Cap College before it became the university.
Oh.
Yeah. So I took the cinematographer film and video course, and it was a cheaper course compared to the Vancouver Film schools.
Oh, yeah, taking the whole 2-year program and all that. Yeah. I think that's a lot. If you pinpoint what you want to do, I think it's better than just giving you the general, because I think a lot of people get overwhelmed because it's like they don't need to learn set deck if they're not interested at all.
Absolutely. And some of those other courses, BCIT, I think at the time was about 23,000. That's nothing that I had. My course was about 10K, and it's funny. Some people say out of film school, I could have got a book and camera and just done my own thing, and that's true. But I found merit in playing with the equipment and learning the camaraderie between your fellow crew members, or students in that case, and it really taught me. It put me in everybody's shoes on set.
Okay.
Albeit a student production, it was still a set to me.
Well, it is intimidating to walk out there. That's why I wrote the book, because I know a lot of people go into a film set and they don't know anything. But if you did film school, you have an idea of who people are and who's important, who's not.
Your book should be in every classroom, as a by the way, too, because a lot of it, you're right, they do not teach those terms and
the basics.
The basics, what you cover. So it should be something that should be done.
Well, the thing is, I'm not a I'm not a teacher at a film school. You know what I mean? I'm just some guy who was a PA in background and worked on the crew. So I knew that, and I knew that the tongue-in-cheek humor I put in it is just because of who I am, and I've written a lot of comedy and stuff, so I try to keep it funny. But it does help, and I've had a lot of friends thank me because they have 5 new people, and they're like,
Absolutely, Mike. Well, you lived it.
Yeah,
right? So
I've had that.
Yeah,
and now you know what it's like to have new employees too, right?
Is it and that's something we could cover as well. It's a changing landscape on staffing fronts, and that's whether it's vendors or crews. I'm hearing the same thing.
Yeah,
it runs the gamut. So
well,
very challenging.
Really, in film, there is no seniority. It's all by nepotism. It's like, you do the job the best and get along with me the best, I'm hiring you every time. And that changed the industry, because I think at one time it was seniority, right? I know it in Teamsters there may be a difference, because each union has its own set of rules.
Yep.
So, but it's one of those. The best person gets the best job, or gets what they put in, and the work ethic is number one, right?
Yep. Well, and you're right. You hit the nail on the head. Work ethic has gone out the window for some strange reason, and I don't want to necessarily blame it on the quote-unquote millennials, but it's...
Social media is to blame.
Well, it's a tough thing, too. I mean, we talk at length about this, all the general managers across the country. It's funny. It seems to be more of a BC thing.
Oh, really? Okay.
Again, having branches across the country in basically every province, I'm quite in tune to the rest of the general managers and the woes that they go through. And it does seem to be a bit more of a BC thing. Why that is, I couldn't tell you. A lot of it could be blamed on cost of living. It comes up quite a bit.
Laid back, West Coast.
Laid back, maybe that's
Pot's
it too.
legal.
Pot's legal. Well,
I'm kidding.
No, and hey, maybe it's pot. Let's blame the weed.
Oh, that's hilarious. Yes, it is true that that work ethic only lies in so many people, on a certain percentage. And when I go to film, how many people are right on the money and know exactly the numbers and know exactly what time and are always on it.
Yep.
And then other people that are just like, oh, I don't know.
Yep.
And I forget their name. I don't know. And they totally lackadaisical and not pay attention to what's important.
Yep.
So,
well, it's a microcosm of what's going on here too. The Vancouver film industry is not going anywhere anytime soon. It is busting at the seams. Studio space is at its prime, and I think the worry about vendors and a lot of line producers, production managers, etc., is having adequate crews to facilitate what's going on here in the city.
Right.
And this is coming from LA. You know, they're concerned about burning locations, about even on a loss and damage, equipment loss and damage is unprecedented in the last 2 years.
Oh, yeah.
And that's very telling, you know.
Well, I haven't worked here, but obviously the L&D was the if it's a big budget production, they don't care, it seems.
Yep.
They're like, I lost 500 cones.
Yep.
Yeah, whatever.
Yep.
Like, what do you mean, whatever?
Well, it's that too, and I think it's attention to detail and due diligence comes into play, and there isn't a lot of that. I can totally scope out the old school folks that do those things, and the new ones that don't, right? And there's it's just mind-boggling sometimes.
Oh yeah. It's cool to get your perspective because you are on the fringe of the industry and see all kinds of stuff and talk to so many different people. Like I said before, like 80% of the industry knows you really well, and the other 20% just haven't met you, right?
Nothing but good things, though.
Yeah. No, but it is. It's always first of all, the work ethic is there and always throwing down.
Yep.
And even if you were having a bad day, the keeping a positive attitude and trying to facilitate and be positive with the person, no matter what your personal problems are, is also a blessing.
Yep.
When you deal with a lot of stuff.
Yep. And further to that too is mental health has really become an issue the last couple of years. It's an important thing too, especially in our industry. Mike, you did a heck of a lot more of it than I did too. Just the hours on set.
Oh yeah.
Can be very daunting and punishing at times. It's something that they're talking about, trying to work harder on 12-hour days and 10-hour shooting days and stuff like that. But lower budgets, I don't know if they can afford to do things like that. So mental health has come up quite a bit in the industry, as well as us vendors.
That makes sense for sure, because it seems everyone's on antidepressants or some sort of drug and some sort of thing, and working those hours can be crazy.
Absolutely.
And if you don't take care of yourself physically, you can really break down.
Yep.
Because I was doing 85 to 100 in 5 days, like insane. Which is,
and you got to decide, is the money worth it? The film industry pays quite well, obviously too. But I don't know if you could put a price tag on your mental health and your physical health.
Well, the reason I came to you was because I got married. When I was a single guy, I could do those hours and I didn't care. Whatever, it doesn't matter. But when I had a really important relationship and I got married, that became my priority. Yep. And that's why I wanted to do a regular job and leave the film industry, because I knew that I've seen so many relationships fall apart.
Yep.
Because the person's working, like I said, 100 hours a week.
Yep.
When do you see them? And then when you see them for a month, a year.
That dang work-life balance, it's a tough one to tackle, and my hat's off to you. You did the right thing, I think, is especially for somebody maybe in your case with Danny not being in the industry, it can be hard to understand sometimes too, that you're kind of stuck. You have to do those long days and hours to make the dough, but she's, it's a delicate balance, no question about it.
Yeah, and it's something that people should pay attention to because when you work in the film industry, I knew because I had done indies and stuff that I had lots of friends on the fringe that could probably, and I applied here and at Major Whites and at everywhere around all the little vendors kind of thing. But if you took me in, like, I think it was Andrew hired me within 3 days. Can you start Monday? That's what I heard. And I was like, what? And he's like, yeah, I talked to Jason. He knows you really well. Yeah, you start Monday. I'm like, okay.
Well, absolutely. And that circles back to the good work ethic. You can get noticed in this industry if you have it. I remember, I was driving the trucks and humping the plywood and the track mat and tables and chairs and all that other fun stuff. And I met you numerous times on set to pick up and help load, and cheerful and helpful. And it's just even those two key things that, resonate with me.
Yeah, and, it's the work ethic and the positive attitude is huge in the industry because of or humping plywood. It's like not glamorous.
Not at all.
And it's also like the memory that sticks on my mind was when you came and picked me up. I was on Supernatural, I think.
Yep.
And I was by this water, I had a bunch of plywood, and you
Absolutely.
came with Cole and Freddie, your daughter, and it was a Saturday. No one else would do it. You're like, oh, I'll do it. And that work ethic that you have, that drive, is very impressive.
Yep. Same with you too. I mean, that's when I could roll with. It was a family event, doing the pickups back in the day too. But it's just It's funny. You really remind me about that too. It's just those small moments of good work ethic and a positive attitude are key.
It is
key.
And it also lends help later on when you need a hand when you're doing some sort of project. Because, like, that's the other thing I wanted to say to you was I really appreciated all the help you gave me when I did my independent work. This is well before I knew you, really. And I came in and said, they told me to ask you, and I was all timid. And then I said, I need 10 mats. Is that okay? I only got $20. And you're like, it costs more than that, but I don't care. Whatever. And I think you gave it to me for free. You didn't even take my $20. And I was like, okay, this is great, right? Like, I don't know, but I didn't know you had been in that world, and that you help out independent people all the time. And just from me and all the independent filmmakers I know, thank you very much for all of your help and all of your donations and letting people, giving them a break when they come around, because they need that. Like, they only have $3,000, but they got to get $10,000 worth of stuff.
Yep. It's very obvious too that again, being in that same boat, even today, I'm still in that same boat. But it's a challenge. I learned that this trait from two people. Ed Brando, when I first graduated film school, one of my first projects that I did, Ed Brando was working for Paladin at the time. He's now new business development and client services over at White's. He was working at Paladin, and he gave me about $10,000 worth of gear for $100.
Wow.
And I always took that when I, years later, went to go work for Parallel. Andrew McLean, the old owner, very similar thing, very helpful to the indie film community, because they're the next generation. You're always trying to stoke that next generation, help them be creative, help lift a little bit for them, and take some of the weight off their shoulders financially. So yeah, it's something that I carried with me all the way through Parallel into White's Location Equipment Supply, and I'll continue to do it today because there's always that next generation.
That is amazing. It really also reminds me of the dedication that people have when they do indies. Like, how many times I had people work for me for free as well, and say, hey, I can only give you an IMDb credit. I don't have budget to give you, but when they come out anyway, because they know if they call me, I go and help them, and then I do one of the many jobs, because when you do internet, it's like, I'm wearing 15 hats. You want to take one?
Yeah, totally. I've done a number of mine. Would you work for a plate of spaghetti and a copy of the DVD? Of course. Okay, thank you. Yeah.
Wild. So when White's bought the company from Parallel. Andrew retired. Is that, and he went his own way?
Yeah, I think it was a sore spot for him, but I think financially he made the smartest move for him. So I basically, after camera assisting and working as a PA for about a year-ish, I decided to kind of take like something more consistent, paycheck every 2 weeks.
Right.
So I was able to work on my own kind of projects on the side. So when I started with Parallel, it was very challenging. Like 1, 2, 3, 4 shows maybe at one time was a big deal back in the day. And yeah, and there was about 4 or 5 employees. And then Andrew finally got it to a place. We all built Parallel to a really good place, and it was April 1st, 2015. When White's took us over, and it's really become a package deal type world, A to Z services.
Right.
I think that was one of the main points in purchasing us. So that, yeah, and Andrew, it was tough for him too because it was his baby for about 25 years.
Right.
And, but he kind of joked that he's now seen his kid go off to college and he's happy about it. I lived through quite a few times with him where he had to second and third mortgage his house. And
oh, wow.
I think just the way that the film industry has grown over the last, especially 4, 5, 6 years, he wouldn't have been able to keep up financially. I don't think it'd be very challenging.
And then what? You're in competition with William F. White's? I mean, come on, right? Because this is the company that coast to coast.
Yep.
Really supplies the film industry from A to Z.
Absolutely, and I think even Whites, they have their own competition, and who shall remain nameless, but they're out there. But yeah. I mean, I think the one good thing that I was very impressed when Whites bought us out because it really helped us employees.
Yeah.
On the benefits level, it's something that a mom and pop shop wasn't able to do, and Andrew was very happy to see us all kind of get our just desserts. And it really helped with the equipment on a streamlined avenue. Just good, clean working equipment, streamlined, all the same kind of stuff, not a hodgepodge. And availability of a CapEx request to kind of work and grow the company year by year equipment. And we have grown year by year.
Oh, yeah. No, it's amazing. When I worked here, was it there's maybe 18 employees?
Yep.
And now what's the number now?
50 total. I mean, some
50. That's crazy.
It's insane, buddy. And half of them are, a little less than half are part-time. But, part-time is defined by 1 to 3 days a week. So it's very busy. We learned years ago that film slows down a little bit in the summer. So we do a lot of festivals and events, which keeps us busy. But there is no shortage of work in film. I've grown a little bit since just kind of relying on the DGC list to know what's coming up the pike. And beyond that, we have leads meetings every Monday morning. And it shows, there's probably about 60, 70 shows coming the rest of this year. Oh. And as I was telling you
60
before...
60 or 70? What have we done so far?
Oh, it's just...
pilot season, it's even hard to say.
Pilot season's hard to say. Well, and just kind of as a comparison, when we moved upstairs, when you first hired, working with us, we were in 8,000 square feet. We moved up into 20,000 square feet now, and we're busting at the seams and don't have enough space. And when I was telling you, 1, 2, 3, 4 shows at one time back in the old Parallel days, we were doing 54 shows at once. I counted last year. So, yeah. And
54! And that's not all the shows in Vancouver. That's just a fraction. That's, not a fraction. Maybe 70%, maybe?
Well, now
you have a big percentage.
I think we have 85% market share.
Nice.
And I think that, there's obviously competition in town, and some of our own clients have their own equipment, and that's all fine. Right. But I think that's a testament to our service.
Oh, it is.
I think that... I've kind of always joked, I'm friendly with the competition, but I've always joked people can go to Rona or Home Depot. It's entirely up to them. Yeah. And, I think we do well in the customer service front too. I mean, pricing is what pricing is. And I think this industry is all about service. I learned years ago that the minute you say no, there might be a chink in the armor. And it's just all about not saying no.
That is very true. And it's also actually working on a film set, same thing. Never say no. That was one of the rules. Never ask when to go home.
Yeah.
Or when do we go home, and never say no. And even if it's a stupid decision or a stupid idea, try it.
Yep.
Did it work? It didn't work. Okay, well, at least you tried it.
Absolutely.
And that's it's a different thing with film, but it's the same sort of thing. Saying no can drive this person to go somewhere else.
Yep.
So if you say no to someone who for the 10 free cones in 5 years when they're running Deadpool 5 or something
remember
huge,
that.
they'll remember. It's like, I'm not going back there. And that's another thing, right? Have you ever had people that you've donated gear to for independence that have grown to a point where they're not famous, but like really high up in the industry?
Well, I think a feather in our cap is that when Whites first bought us out, and I kind of became part of the Vancouver sales team, and there's which includes studio now, specialty equipment, camera, grip and
Crane.
of course, cranes. Yeah. So we have a Monday meetings just to kind of map out where we're going and where we've been and all that fun stuff too. Is you could tell. I think they were very impressed that our location managers, our assistant location managers, even our PAs and TALs end up being the next line producers, production managers, production coordinators. And it's something I think that they missed. So I think they've been very impressed the last 4 years with people like, growing up with Casey Nelson Zetter.
Right.
He was an ALM, and I grew up with that man, and to LM and now PMing, and he just finished up Twilight Zone and Zoo and X-Files.
God, those are big.
He's doing big
boys,
things, right?
Wow.
Another example is a Katu Kearney,
Katu, wicked person.
Absolutely, she's PMing shows now, and people have like even a younger generation. We're an Emily Keller. She's been around this industry for quite a long time, but she's really quickly made her way up the ladder. And it's funny how we see that on our level here, locations wise. So always stoking the next generation. I think the benefit about Whites is that it's definitely about relationships, but it's about education too. So what I do is a lot of our locations clients go to the production manager courses. And I managed to end up taking them over to Whites and take a tour just to kind of learn and understand the equipment and loss and damage and billing and all that stuff, where they might not get any of that information in the classroom. So more hands-on. Yeah,
they can actually physically see it, and then it's right in their memories, locked in their brain.
Absolutely, and kind of understand and get a sense of feeling. I can't say it enough that mom and pop shop feeling that Andrew and Linda had with Parallel Rentals has really carried on with the Whites family as well too. It's just been nothing but good things.
Good. It's just service, and helping the people that are working those 100-hour weeks.
Absolutely.
They're just dead on their feet when they come to your door and they're like, I don't know, you've seen many times.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So, is there any huge movies that you've been, because you did quite a few big movies, right? As of late, since I've been here, anyway. You do a lot of television shows, and you do, but the big, huge blockbuster features. What are those ones?
Well, we definitely live and breathe on our series.
Right.
Definitely your Flash, Arrows, DC Legends,
right.
Supernaturals, but which have grown into The Order and Siren and, shows like those. The In-Between is another one that we just did. Big features, Deadpool.
Oh, yeah, it was Deadpool?
Yeah, that was kind of one of our bigger ones. And Altered Carbon. I think the changing landscape, it's funny because on the DGC list, it's not just series and features anymore. It's new media and it's Netflix and, The High Castle was another big series that we did as well, right? So just all these different platforms to work within. I mean, there's Facebook and there's YouTube and again, back to Netflix and Amazon.
Streaming online, all that.
Streaming is huge. And just the investment that they put into the city, I think they've locked down a couple of our studios for about 8 years or something like that too. So it just runs the gamut. And, we're also happy. It's not about big. It's also,
right.
It's also about doing all those, like Hallmark does like 100 plus shows a year in the city, right? So,
and commercials.
And commercials, right?
Car commercials and all that.
Absolutely, right? So we're pretty consistently busy. We kind of hit a good patch recently with pilot season finishing up. We have about a 3-week window and just time to catch up, and we'll be back right into it again.
Nice.
Yeah,
that's cool. I love it. after all the people I talked to, they were saying that how much it's grown in this thing, and I just found out that Apple is now filming here.
Sorry, you know what? And it's a good reminder. C is a series.
I talked to the scout from that show.
Oh my gosh, I could have. They probably guy or girl.
It was a Rich Dickner guy.
Oh, okay, so he must have told you some stories about that show because it went.
He can only tell me a bit, but he did tell me that it averaged about 20 million an episode.
It was.
I'm like, what?
Yeah, I'm actually glad you reminded me of that because, as an example, any of those series that we do, like your Flashes, your DC Legends. We've been doing them for 4 or 5 years now, and they're usually our breadwinners and our most revenue generated. C doubled any of those. It was insane.
They were the priority. It went from
absolutely, yeah,
wow.
And they were all over the map. So I'm very curious to see if they get especially with the money that they put into it. I'd be curious to see if they get a second season.
I hope so, but from what he told me was. He is like Apple looked at Amazon and said, "Oh, you're billionaires? Well, we're trillionaires. We're going to take over this." Right? He was joking, obviously, but it's since streaming is so big, Amazon has their own, and they have their own. Apple has their own, and then Netflix, and then just keeps going.
Well, Disney now as well.
Oh yeah, Disney has one, and then the Crave with the HBO and the Showtime 3-in-1 kind of thing. And that's the way it's going, and television's dying, obviously, right? Yeah. But these shows just keep generating.
Yeah. Does anybody watch Ray Romano anymore?
I just watched him doing a dramatic role in a movie, and it was amazing. Yeah. He is really good, and then he did stand-up as well. If you go on Netflix, you can see his stand-up, and I really enjoyed that, too. I was surprised.
Yeah.
But everyone's trying to their hand at stand-up, right?
Yeah.
It seems.
Nobody can be Chappelle, though.
No. His last special, I thought, was he is top of the game.
Absolutely.
Some of the best. Never stopped, never whatever. I've heard stories about Dave Chappelle where they went out and did a show of stand-up comedy or whatever, and there was 4 or 5 comics, and they said, "Okay, well, we're done. Let's go to this party. We invited this party after, and it's what 11:30 midnight. Yeah, let's go to this party." And Dave Chappelle's like, "No, I'm going to the comedy store." They're like, "What?" He goes, "You're not getting better by going to a party." Yeah. Right, and he went to the comedy store. They all followed him at okay, because they didn't want to be embarrassed. Yeah. And he got up and he did another an hour set, went off, then came up and did another hour set and left at 3 a.m. And that's just the way he is.
Very cool.
Joe Rogan talked about it on the podcast where he would they come out of a comedy thing and then he just drops a hat, goes into this park that's right beside the thing, and then just starts doing open air stand-up comedy in the park. If you want to give him money, whatever. And that's just the way he is. That's him.
Huh. I love it.
So I think a lot of people are their art.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Yeah, Jimmy Page is a guitar player. Yep. You know, that's what his image is, and that's what it is. I don't know all his personal life, but just like that, Dave Chappelle is up there. And there's a lot. And comedy is going huge.
Yeah.
Have you ever done any sort of specials for comedy, or because that hasn't gone the way yet? It's just still comedy clubs, right?
No, I mean I've gone to a few, and I was quite impressed with the stuff that you were doing too. And I think you should keep pursuing that too, because it was pretty cool.
That's my next one. That's my next thing. I'm going to go back.
It's all the hats off to you when you're out there in front of an audience, because it's not an easy thing to do. The more and more, especially with my general manager role, is to more public speaking, more. I was going to the Toasters Club in Burnby just to kind of hone my public speaking.
Oh, Toastmasters,
skills.
Nice.
Yeah. So
good for you.
Yeah, it's good on you. You should continue.
Well, I will. I've been writing some comedy, and I need to get back out there, but. The thing about comedy is because of my condition with the MS or whatever, it's traveling. Yep. And stand-up is really traveling. So I don't mind doing it as far as going to the open mics and trying it out. But this is a lot more conducive. I'd rather do this kind of thing.
There you go.
Just because of the ease of it. And it also gives me time. So that's the idea, but we'll see.
No, pursue. I like that idea.
But I like the fact that you took the bull by the horns and actually proceeded, because I think a lot of people are pursued it. A lot of people... with stand-up in front of people and actually talking, they're so scared of it. They just fight it at every turn. Yep. So to take a course like Toastmasters and you're just running towards the problem. Okay, this is something that's an issue with me. I got to take care of it.
Yep.
And that's not saying no.
Absolutely, and I think it's you got to at least try. And I think the one thing I learned too, it's more just about being open and honest and being yourself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We've probably seen a million people that seem kind of fake when they're doing their shtick, so
Right.
to speak. But yeah, for me personally, I think it's just about being open and honest.
Yeah, if you're transparent when it comes down to, especially in the film industry, that's makes all the difference, because if you're shady and fake and trying to work your manipulation and stuff, it's going to be revealed, and people are going to know it right away, and then be like, "Oh God!"
Yep.
And then from then on, your reputation is, "Don't work with that guy."
Absolutely.
I've had that many times where I won't work with someone because of that. You know, they act like your friend, and then they stab you in the back and whatever. So, but anyway, yeah, I interviewed your wife too, Cole.
Yeah,
right, Cole
I
Jones. And
listened to it. Very nice work. Very nice work.
she's an awesome person. She's always been really good and has the work ethic as well.
Yep, she comes from that old school generation as well too. She just knows the grindstone and does the job of 2 or 3 people without complaint. You know, because especially in that industry, it just needs to be done.
Yeah.
So she's worked herself into a really good team environment. I think the last 3, 4-ish, maybe 5-ish years, we had a daughter, Freddie, and it can be challenging in the industry to be able to kind of juggle babysitting and childcare and school and all that fun stuff and swimming. So her team's really been good to her, where we kind of tag team it a lot more, picking her up, dropping her off, and all that fun stuff. And she's integral to the team, but not integral to the team, if you know what I mean. So, yeah,
But you don't want her to get in film?
I keep pushing her. I joke I joke with the wife. I say, "Why don't you take the location manager jobs and that you've been offered?" But she has no interest. She likes the job, likes the camaraderie, likes the challenge, but has no interest in moving up the proverbial ladder. And our daughter, we joked around with like putting her into commercials and get her an agent and all that stuff. I mean, of course, our kid's the most beautiful looking kid in the world.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Of course, any parent would say that. But, then also knowing the challenges of the industry and how kind of cutthroat it is and how shady it can be too, maybe it's better just to let her do her thing, and maybe she can decide when she's a little bit older what she wants to do.
Well, yes, she's very smart. I think she'll come to terms and say whether she wants it or not, and that's
At least she gets firsthand look at it through the both of us, obviously, and can really make an educated decision as well, right?
Yeah, I had a friend, his daughter went into modeling. That was a different world, but after about 2 years, realized I don't want to do this because of all the manipulation and egos and fakeness and all that crap.
Yep.
So
Definitely. Yeah.
that's awesome. Well, yeah, I guess. Is there anything else you want to talk about, or you want to pitch your writing right now? You optioned a book. Is that the idea?
Yeah. So I mean, always chasing the dream on the side. I optioned a book about 3 years ago with called John Doe 24, and I think the main reason I got the book, the option, was to help my friend Sandano Schultz, who we both know.
Yep.
He has Parkinson's, and he had to retire from the film industry about, I think it's been about 3 years now, just because he's unable to do anything.
Right.
He's on for about 2 hours and okay, and then back to 4 hours of kind of nothingness, and then back and forth. So I've been helping him over the last number of years, just trying to get his mind active and kind of get him engaged. And John Doe 24, the book, I said, Sandano, let's kind of work on this together. So we kind of co-wrote the screenplay, and we ended up pitching it to Vanessa Okuma. She's an actress on Rookie Blue.
Okay.
I happen to know her from back in the high school days, and she's interested in writing, directing, and producing it. So just waiting for her to finish. She's on a series right now, finishes in about a month, and then she's going to look at taking it to the next level. And always got a number of irons in the fire. I've got 2 or 3 series that I want to kind of polish up, and then shoot sizzle reels for them this summer, and then go to the American Film Market in November and do some pitching.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's. I find the biggest challenge with that kind of thing is promoting yourself. For me, going around and saying I'm the best. Look at my stuff. Look what I can do. Is because I was like always a punk rock and against society, against the man or whatever. And now I'm like, oh, now I'm the shrill,
No.
I know it's not, but you feel like it inside. You feel like, oh God, I'm promoting myself. I'm saying how great I am to these people. But
it's such a tough industry too. I mean, kind of circling back to film school, when you graduate film school, they fail to tell you that you're not going to get your $6 million director's job that they promised you. I know, and I jokey about it all the time, but I've seen it time and time again where I've been a PA and maybe working on a film set, and there's a number of Vancouver film students that are there with their scripts and saying, maybe we can go talk to the director about my script, and that's just not the reality of the way things work. So and it's funny when you try and get funding when you get out of film school, they say, can I get X amount of dollars to help fund my project? Well, what have you done before? And that's kind of the circle jerk in this world, is you need to have something on your plate, some sort of a resume. So it seems to me what you were talking about before is a lot of grassroots movements, people helping each other in the indie community, try and build that resume up, whether it's through short films or very ultra low budget features. Very challenging industry too. And then, the next level, it really does come down to who you know and timing.
Yeah.
I find, right? For myself, I've probably done about 10 short films. I sold one a couple years back, and then I think features are the next logical step for me in series. So you write the screenplays and stuff, and you kind of have to have that budget in mind and be smart about your location. I could shoot a feature film tomorrow, but where do I get the money to do it?
Right.
And what I found is there is a community here too, but it comes down to financing. So there's a couple young men that work here and really taught me a lesson that they go after distribution first, which unlocks a lot of financing,
right?
Funding.
You say, oh no, it will be on Netflix.
Absolutely.
They're gonna go, oh,
yeah,
okay then.
So it opens up a lot of pipelines, and then it also, your Banffs and your American film markets in November. I mean, it's just all about knocking on doors. Christine Larson is a friend in the film community of mine, and she really kind of said something that resonated with me, that the younger generation are really breaking down the walls these days on seeking funding and getting financing for any project.
Being more creative, you mean, and getting it like in a different route?
We have lots of different routes, more avenues to kind of showcase your work, shooting sizzle reels, again, pounding on those doors, It was funny. I used to go on social media platforms like LinkedIn, for example.
Okay.
LinkedIn, I could probably find any producer, in Vancouver or LA and New York, and I can just easily email them and say, hey, you interested in this project? You get a 50% success rate when they reply back. They might not always be interested, but at least they acknowledge you. So, you didn't have those things 20 years ago, 10 years ago.
Yes, that the internet has changed the game.
Absolutely.
I know exactly, because I wasn't into that kind of thing before, where promoting was always hard. But now, sending out emails to different things, now I have a connection to every single union across the country. Absolutely. Every single production is online. You know exactly their email address right into their thing.
Yep.
And that it really helped out for sure. And I'm sure a lot of funding, but when it comes down to the community and helping out, and all these people donate or whatever, you can really manage and direct and do your own things for cheap in the beginning. But people have to realize that they're not walking out as Tarantino. They're not walking out as Spielberg.
Totally.
They have to realize that your first 10 things may be for free or cost you money, right?
Absolutely.
And all of the things were out of my pocket, and I just paid money for this and that, and never had any return, but never regretted it, because this is me. This is what I did.
Yep. And if you don't end up being Spielberg at the end of your life, again, I circle back to, I don't want to be that 80-year-old guy that said I should have.
Right.
You don't know if you don't try, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And when you put you're all into something, and that's the other thing, is dealing with rejection. In this industry, you have to deal with rejection pretty hard. Like, actors get it the worst, I guess, because it's straight out looks. Your eyebrows are too thick. You're gone. Like, that's it, right? Like, what? What are you talking about?
I get that over and over and over again.
Something silly, but as far as doing indies and trying to get it out there, everybody is doing it now. There's so many podcasts. There's so many different means online, right?
No, and again, hats off to you. This is a great platform for you. I love the concept.
Well, thank you very much. I'm really happy I get to talk to all these interesting people that are a part of an industry I love so much.
Yep.
It was something that I didn't go into like looking for money.
Yep.
It was the opposite, and I could do all those hours because I loved it. I loved doing what I was doing, and that's a different story. When you love what you're doing, it makes it like it's not work. You look up and you're like, oh my God, it's been 80 hours?
You miss it?
I do miss the camaraderie.
Yep.
I miss a lot of things about it for sure. I don't miss the hours, of course.
Yep.
That was the biggest, hardest thing. But I do miss it. I miss being a part of it. And this is something that brings me also able to talk to all these people and see what they do. And now it's filled that hole, I think.
Very cool.
I'm really enjoying it.
Very cool.
Well, thank you very much for doing this with me.
Of
I
course.
appreciate it. And in the future, after a while, I might call on you again to come talk to me and see what's going on as far as the industry and how it is unfolding.
Yeah, anytime, Mike. Anytime,
Okay.
man.
Well, thank you very much. I'll talk to you soon. That was great. I love talking to Jason. Join me next week when I have a chat with Mike Bishop. He is a first AD and second AD in the Vancouver film industry, and it's a really good conversation. So until next week, have a good one, and I'll talk to you then. Take care.